One of the hardest things I've ever had to do is be a leader. People underestimate, we even now we hire people and we have what's called level 10 meetings where we get together and we go over stuff. And one of the things that is a common theme we hear from HR is that people are like, especially people with zero experience, what's your aspirations? I want to be a leader. I want to be in a management role. Like it's so common for people, younger people too. And I hate to just kind of pick on them, but it is a younger generation is like, I want to be a manager, I want to be a leader, and they've done nothing to put themselves in that role. They just think like, I want to be there.
Today is a very special day. I've got somebody that I've looked up to since I started doing content, Frankie Baby, Frank Mengert. Thanks for joining me, man.
Glad to be here, man. I'm excited.
I was strategic about the guests that I wanted to have on early because entrepreneurship has been talked about a lot. Everyone's got a side hustle. Everyone's doing it or thinking about it. And so you and a couple of the other entrepreneurs that we're having on are just incredible business leaders who I think have been there, have done it, have walked the walk. First entrepreneur venture was in 2003. If you could tell Frankie Baby from 2003 what you know now in terms of what the trek would be, what would you tell him?
Oh, man, it's buckle up for sure. I think today someone who calls himself an entrepreneur in 2003, I wasn't even thinking about calling myself an entrepreneur. And the term was for like legit, big, these big Silicon Valley guys who are, just making so much money. So when you were thinking of an entrepreneur, you were thinking of people like, a Bill Gates or someone like that. You weren't thinking of, Frank Mengert in New Haven, Connecticut. So, So when I went out, set out to do it, I think that there's back then, I was just trying to, create something of my own. I knew that I didn't want to work for someone. I had been recently laid off, and I didn't ever want that to happen again. I wanted to control my own destiny. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it now. And I started my first business, and it's been, last year in the height of the pandemic, I started my fifth company. So it's been a lot of ups and downs. Things have worked out, and things have went really sideways. And it is a roller coaster, and there's times where you're like, I'm not built for this. You start to question everything. Yeah. So I would tell myself back then, hold on for dear life, for sure.
Well, what I noticed too is, so I started my exclusive when I was almost like 29. Right. And I started in an industry recruiting that I had been in for a number of years. So I knew you were a little bit younger when you kind of started out. So I'm guessing for you, it was not only like learning how to be a business owner, but not that you didn't know the industry you were in, but you probably had a whole, because I look at young entrepreneurs that are like just in the professional world, and I almost tip my hat to them. Like, geez, like that's a whole nother bag of things to kind of figure out industry vertical wise. Did that make it harder early on for you to kind of find your way?
I knew nothing about, running a business, about what it took, about, like zero, and I had no one to guide me. So I never had a mentor, didn't have someone who was like, I want to be like him, like someone close to me where I'd get some guidance or call up and say, hey, I'm going through this, or what should I do? I mean, look, the easiest things from like registering with the Secretary of State, like that stuff that's like crucial. Like, hey, you can start a business and you're just going to take cash, like, what do you have to have like a legitimate company, but I didn't know any of that. So I was starting from nothing and learning as I went along. So I think, nowadays things, you Google stuff, you can find a lot of things a lot easier. I think there's a ton of more information at our fingertips now. But back then, a lot of this, it was just kind of figuring things out. And then again, coupled with the fact that I didn't really have someone to guide me and you say, hey, you should be doing this, or here's your checklist. So it was it was, you know, a learning process, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and as I did, you know, of course, I'm the kind of guy, you make a mistake, I don't want to make it again, so you learn and keep it moving. But there's today starting a business versus, you know, me starting a business almost 20 years ago. It's the speed with which you can do it today is a lot faster, because I think resources, you know, so many more things are automated, so many more resources are available out there, and and now and so many businesses are starting up. I mean, the number of businesses that, you know, got formed last year was like crazy, the number, but then there was a number that went out of business. So yeah, now it's, you know, it's easy to start a business these days for sure.
I wanted to, because not everyone that's going to watch this is going to want to start a business. We can't try to find another version of ourselves. And by the same token, when you're hiring, like as an entrepreneur or even a manager at a big company, you can't expect somebody to care as much about your business as you do. Are there things that you do managerially to get that level of buy-in that, you know, because the difference between somebody being all the way dialed into what you're doing and somebody looking at it like, you know, this is just a job and I'm just going to do what I can to keep this job. You know, that's the difference in a lot of businesses. What are long-winded way of asking, or what have you done to get that level of engagement?
It's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do is be a leader. It's such a hard job. I mean, it's great and it's rewarding, but there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of attention on you. People, no matter what you think, are watching what you do and how you act and how you react. So for me, I'm always, I have to be someone who's gonna, if I say something, I'm gonna do it. I want people to know that, you know, this is a safe place and you can come and you can speak to me. You know, I'm always available. And then also that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I mean, even to this day, like, you know, I'm taking trash out and breaking up boxes and changing paper into printer. I mean, I'm not immune to that. Like, I don't care. I do whatever I need to do, because I'm not any different than anyone else. If I expect someone on my team to do something, I'm going to do it too. If people on my team got to stay late, I'm going to, even though I can't do their job, I'm still going to hang out and get shit done. And, you know, I got plenty of stuff to work on. So I'm there, you know, regardless. And I think that if you want people to follow you into a burning building, then you gotta know for sure that you're going to be the first one through the door, and they'll follow you if they really trust you and they're loyal to you.
Yeah, I think that is, like, for a lot of small businesses, that's the competitive advantage. I mean, you know, I know like big companies at a branch level, you get a good, you know, branch manager, they can replicate that same environment. But depending on the industry, I mean, I look at that as a competitive advantage. So another reason why you and I connected is we're in the content game, you know, and we're still relatively new. I mean, this isn't a new thing, right? But I feel like in our respective industries, there aren't a lot of people in the recruiting space. There aren't a lot of people in, you know, employee benefits tech that are as visible as you are. What do you look at as, you know, your 2 to 5 year plan for what you want to do with it?
Yeah, the content creation game for me, I think a lot of people in COVID turned to social media. You know, a lot of, especially LinkedIn, changed a lot with people creating content because they've looked at it as like this, you know, magic sales tool, you know, and it's ruined the LinkedIn that I joined because there's a lot of people on there who are just selling and messing it up and just doing things all wrong. And, you know, it's a free platform. I have zero control over it. So for me, I just got to deal with it. But I never showed up on LinkedIn and created content because I thought it was going to make me money. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk, I sat down with Gary V, May 2018, and he said, go make video on LinkedIn. It's going to change your life professionally and personally. And it took me several months. I didn't make my first piece of content until November that year. So even Gary V was like, hey, go do this. And I was like, yeah, sure, Gary V.
Yeah.
And So I started making content, and I was just educating. I started talking about employee benefits, the insurance industry. And then over time, as I got comfortable showing up, I started talking about my struggles as an entrepreneur and building a business and things that I go through. And then, so now, I mean, really, a lot of the content I put out there is just me connecting with other people, me sharing stories, and most of the people that I really truly connect with are people who relate to something personal that I shared, and through that, a lot of people do business with me. Sure, in my industry, I'm like the LinkedIn guy. You know, I go to a conference, I get on the phone with someone, I speak somewhere. They're like, "Oh, we know you from LinkedIn," you know, and it's great because it's people recognize me. So I've built this brand of this guy that shows up on LinkedIn. I think people have gotten to know me through the content, and it's helped me build relationships a lot faster. So for me, I'll continue to do that. I mean, the long term for me, ideally, the long term approach I want to leave a strong legacy. I want to be around people that are actually trying to do change, because it all starts with us. Like, I think if we're living life with gratitude, I think if we're thankful for things, I think if we're smiling more often, we're saying thank you more often, just things that people don't do, it's going to have a ripple effect and this halo effect on other people in our daily lives. And those are the people that I want to surround myself with. So I think over time, I think that, is it hard to change people's mentality and things like that? Sure. But I think there are some people that you could win over. And there's a lot of power and positivity. So that's, I would love to see and be a part of things like that through my content.
That's awesome, man. I know you've got consistent themes in what you do. It's gratitude, it's work ethic, it's a lot of mindset stuff. And I've gotten like some people that were advising me with video. And when I started doing this last year, were all on me about just make recruiting tips. And, you're not a psychologist. Why are you doing some of the mindset stuff? But I think a lot of times those mindset shifts are a lot more impactful than any industry specific tips. And, people see a Gary Vee or, Grant Cardone or whoever, and now they look at them like, all right, these people are bigger. And I think sometimes people can relate to we're the guys next door, right? Like, so I think when they see and hear it coming from someone like you, who has a big following, but is not an international, superstar, not yet, at least. I think that there is something to being able to relate a little bit better than someone they may view as, more mainstream.
Yeah. So you said it twice just now, and you probably didn't even realize it, but you used the word relate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key word. I think relatable. People don't want to, you can't really just, if you can't relate to someone, then it's hard to really say, oh, wow, yeah, I get it. Sure. Maybe, Gary Vee sort of, talks about some struggles and stuff like that. And he shows, the good, the bad, Grant Cardone, it's always, models and bottles and jets and all this crap. It's like this lifestyle that people like, there's people that want that and are going to chase that. But for the most part, I would like to think that most of the people out there can like, oh, wow, like, Jordan's going through that, Frank's going through that. Like, okay, I get it. Like, people go through tough times and it's not just all the shine. So I think that's an important piece.
And perspective is everything. I mean, a lot of times I'm running around like the sky's falling, and then have to remind myself, no, be gracious that you at least get to have your own business and you get to have ABC, and that little shift, it changes your whole day. I know that's cheesy, but it's just the truth. Mm-hmm.
And even for me, like sometime in my content, like, I'm like, oh, I got my butt kicked this week or whatever. It's like not everything like it is, because people are the same way. It's like, man, like it's not always an awesome week. There's going to be weeks where you're going to, whether you're working for a company or working for yourself, where you're like, oh God, why do I do this? And then, you start to that's the attitude of gratitude for me is super important, because I start then that my mind is automatically trained now to kick in and start thinking, well, this is why you do this. This is why you do this. This is why you do this. And then now it's like, okay. And you can quickly snap out of that. I think you talk like the mindset thing is so important because they let one little thing get them into a funk and they forget about all the other amazing things that they've done and that they should be proud of. And that's just a reality with people. And again, I think it's the mindset. I think the more you focus on it, I think the more that you are thankful and grateful. You wake up every morning, you're like, I get to do this again, a clean slate. So it's a great thing. And just even the content, like going back to the content thing, like you sharing, like you did the video the other day in your car, and you were like, just recording and talking, those things where you're just sharing, hey, we just got out of a meeting and this happened or whatever. Those are, again, people like, oh man, that happened to me. Like, I like this Jordan guy. Like he's, keeps it real. He shares stuff because people will show up to watch you talk about whatever it is that you're going through because you're relatable. And then the minute that they hear, like, okay, well, we need a recruiter, and they're gonna be like, okay, well, Jordan's the recruiter. It's, he's the guy. I want to go call Jordan. Or they make the recommendation to say, dude, check this guy out, and then you can. I mean, sharing content is great. You want views and likes and things like that. But if 1,000 people watch your video and one person calls you, great, it was worth it. That's fine because you're making content essentially for free. It's some time and stuff like that. But I think it's an investment in you. And if you go into it with the expectations that you're going to help people, you're going to build great relationships, I think good things will happen. I mean, it's happened to me for sure, time and time again.
Yeah. And you're good about you'll weave in something about what I'll ask you about to wrap up. You'll weave in something about EBM and specific to your space, every few weeks. Just because then they're more apt to listen to that because they've gotten so much value from you along the way, as opposed to, a lot of people that are constantly doing the sales pitches, whether it's in a sponsored play or not. People, they don't know you, they don't want to hear about your product. It's just a different vibe altogether. And a lot of people that make content, maybe they don't get as much engagement. These are in a lot of cases real relationships. Obviously to varying degrees, but the relationships that I've built on this platform, even with you, we just started really getting to know each other the last few months, but these aren't just like show in the comments. Like a lot of these are, they're genuine, real relationships that you build. And if you're not doing that and expecting, to get your content to take off or, obviously to get buyers, forget about that. It starts on a genuine relationship level. Like I remember when I did your 5 questions with Frank a few months ago, people were like, who is this guy? Right. Because and I saw a few people saw it and they were like, oh, Frankie, baby, I should be on if you got this guy on, I should be on 5 questions with Frank. And I felt like being like, well, Frank and I, we've been talking for 6 months. Like we've got to know each other. Like it's not as simple as that,
Yeah. And the fact that you never once was like, hey, let me have you on my show. I'm one thing I am is very aware of my audience and the people I engage with. And if I think someone can bring value or I'm genuinely interested, a lot of times I have someone on my show, it's sort of greedy because I want to learn more about them and I want to I love information. I love to learn, especially about other industries. So I'm more informed. So yeah, me coming to you and saying, hey man, love to have you as a guest on my show. That's because I feel like you're going to bring value, not only to me, but to my audience as well. So people hit me up. I can't, if I search my DMs and search podcast, it's either people asking me to be on theirs or people saying, I'd love to be a guest on yours. And it's like, some people, it's, maybe they could be a good guest, but I feel like me, it's always been like, I like to find people through whatever, a feeling, I see their content, I engage with them, I interact with them. And I'm like, I really like this person. I want to have them on the show. And I think that's more important because you're genuinely having people in bringing them into your world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, EBM, I know you don't need the advertising, right? But tell us a little bit before we wrap up about, you've grown it these last 8-9 years. We've got a lot of HR leadership that, because of our business that watches this content. Who is your ideal client and how can they reach you?
So our ideal client, the end user of our product is a busy HR professional that runs a company that has 100 or more employees. And usually as you get higher and higher, they have more employees and they have less staff. We have groups that have 1,000, 2,000 employees that 2 HR people are managing, and it's a burden. What we do is put time back into the days of busy HR professionals, is specifically around the employee benefits. So medical, dental, vision, all those. We're automating the enrollment piece, education, decision support, connectivity to the insurance carriers that they're probably doing manually or pushing paper, things like that. So we look at the entire employee benefits experience for a company and how we automate that. Getting data from payroll, getting data back to payroll, getting information to carriers. So all that sort of middle layer stuff and system of record. So yeah, if there's an HR person that's listening that is frustrated with their technology today for enrollment, or they just don't have a process in place for enrollment, the best way is to visit our website. You can learn more about all of our products and services. It's getebm.com, getebm.com. Tons of information. There's a link right on the homepage. If you're an employer, it'll bring you right to all kinds of great stuff. And if you happen to be an insurance broker and you're listening to, that's a market we serve. There's tons of information there. We help insurance brokers close business and win business by leveraging our tools. It's 2021. If you can't enroll on your benefits and access your benefits on a smartphone, you're in trouble.
Well, I don't say this lightly. I think if anybody enjoys my perspective, my content, Frankie Baby is like to the 10th power of that. He's got a great message, and man, appreciate your time.
This was awesome. I appreciate it. And I know you're going to do well. Can't wait to see future episodes.
Thanks, brother.